Hello everyone and welcome back to a world where Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp is working. I'm Untitled and welcome to the Global Business Update with TA. Now let's start with the Facebook outage. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp were all blacked out for almost the entire world for a good part of 6 hours, and the funny thing is not only the users but also the internal staff who were locked out of it. The business impact? Well, Facebook, the parent company that owns all three, has actually lost its market share, rather market prices have come down by about 6%, number one. Number two, this is what they call as a snow day attack or a snow day failure, where interestingly the DNS, the domain name servers, of which one could call as more like a telephone book of and about the internet, failing to properly update and direct the traffic to the right different servers. Is this an attack? Is this something accidental? Only time would tell. But this does come in the wake of Frances Haugen, who is one of the former employees of Facebook, who became a whistleblower and came and spoke about how Facebook is not doing enough to cut hate speech because it will harm their profitability. And it's amidst all this fire and amidst all this storm that Facebook had this failure and outage as well. So let's see whether the two are interrelated. You never know. We can have a hacker group coming and claiming responsibility in the near future. Meanwhile, Ghana has an impossible problem, which would be too much chocolate. Good weather, good farmer pay has in fact led to the African nation having a very good harvest of cocoa beans, but air travel being still quite less comparative to a few years back, airports being shut, and even the gift shops not operating, and so many other pandemic-infused problems, not forgetting the supply chain problems, has in fact led to a lesser demand. Meanwhile, in the rebound of the global economy, one currency is emerging as the clear winner with a 61% increase over the last few years, over the last few months, thanks to a tourism boom post-pandemic, and that is none other than the Seychelles rupee. That's right, Seychelles is experiencing a huge boom in their tourism, with more tourists flocking to the island nations, and at the same time that has resulted in quite a strong Seychelles currency. The whole world seems to be going crazy about Squid Games, and in fact, although everyone is wondering who will win the game in this mythical story, interestingly, the winner is already clear, and that's Netflix. The shares closed at a record high in the recent weeks, and the success is clearly visible after having had a slow year so far, especially across the Asia-Pacific region. The subscriber growth has been massive, and this Squid Games series is definitely driving the much-needed subscriber growth for Netflix. Elsewhere, there is a concern and quite a issue when it comes to China, which is the fact that China seems to be allowing lesser amount of Hollywood movies to be really streaming. For example, for this year so far, it's down to about 19 to 20, which is lesser than the 30 odd movies last year and the 52 movies which they approved for showing in China in 2019. Clearly, for the blockbuster movies, yes, China is a big market, but how accessible will the market be, especially in the wake of the Australia, US and UK pact, is a big concern. US lawmakers did breathe a sigh of relief as they averted a deadlock in the GOP as a result, where they were able to extend the funding until the 3rd of December. But there's another crucial deadline coming up on the 19th of October where they need to get further approval for payback of some of the loans which they have taken earlier. Remember, US does have quite a high debt to GDP ratio of more than 100%. And if the approvals don't come, especially even from within the Democrats, there are certain segments that seem to be opposing towards some of the plans of Joe Biden for $550 billion or more injection into the economy as a way of supporting the recovery of the economy. But if these things don't get the right approval, even from within Joe Biden's own Democratic Party, and the Senate now is controlled by the Democrats, if these approvals don't come, well, looks like US might end up going for a deadlock again. But for now, at least the basic funding to operate until the 3rd of December is safely been approved. Sky-high gas prices are driving more energy companies out of business. We saw in the last week in the UK, 3 more large-scale energy companies, Igloo, Enstogra and Symbio Energy, all going out of business, especially due to the very high gas prices and people no longer being able to really afford it, which does put in jeopardy 230,000 or more households at the risk of not being able to get the gas which they require. And this is indeed, I would say, multiplying some of the energy crisis combined with some of the fuel shortages in UK as well. The energy crisis in UK is definitely being compounded and multiplied given this situation. Definitely Boris Johnson's energy plans and energy security is under a massive threat. On a final note, we speak about sustainability all the time, but is enough action being taken is the real question. Recent environmental reports are questioning whether the Amazonian rainforest, which is also known as the lungs of the earth, whether it has gone beyond the point of no return, and whether in another 10 years' time we will see the Amazon ending up as a savanna. The point of no return is where the point beyond which the trend will start spiraling down negatively, and as a result, the lush greenness will be lost and there will be much less rainfall available, which will have global consequences on the climate change issues. But already, given that the Brazil government has been giving out the land of the Amazon for commercial activities and for residential activities, and the farmers have been given the land for farming and all that, despite so many protests. And they've even gone on to tell to the world, if you want the Amazon saved, pay us money to protect it. If not, we will give this land for economic activities. Given that mindset, it is already a big doubt. In fact, it's almost a certainty that the point of no return has been reached, and in another 10 years' time, the lungs of the world, in fact, might end up as a very dry savanna. Now, what kind of an ecosystem are we leaving for our future is a deep concern. That's it for this week. And no matter what business you may be in, please try to make it sustainable, and most importantly, stay safe and keep booming.